Oh boy. Oh, hey there. We got a serious video today, people. That's why I'm playing some minor chords on the guitar here. Today we're talking about what are the 16 personalities' biggest regrets. This is a video that might make you cry. No, but like in all seriousness, based on your personality type, if you let your personality type take you too far in one direction, I'm gonna talk about in this video the regrets that you probably, I'll even go out on a limb, that you definitely will have based on your personality type at some point in your life. You'll reach a point where you're like, I wish I had done this earlier. I wish I had not kind of ignored this side of myself. And you know what they say? They always say you regret more what you didn't do than what you did do. And the whole thing about the 16 personalities is that each personality type is trying to ignore something. They're trying to suppress something that is trying to come out, but it's like, I don't want to go there. I'm afraid of that. That's embarrassing. I shouldn't have to deal with that. So let's go through it. What are the 16 personalities' regrets? First up, let's talk about ESTJ and ENTJ, the lead extroverted thinkers, and what they are going to probably end up regretting one day if they don't watch out. Really, the big problem that these types are gonna have is that they never really figured out who they are. The ESTJ and ENTJ talk a big game. They have this reputation for being the people who beat everyone over the head, get them in line. You know, they're the leaders and whatever, which a lot of that is true. All of that extroverted thinking that they're doing all the time. Let me get stuff done. Let me solve these problems. Let me get the team together and we can all figure out what needs to be done. That comes at the expense of them stopping and looking inward and being like, what is important to me? What do I feel? What are the emotions I have? So ESTJs and ENTJs, at some point in their life, if they keep ignoring their introverted feeling, what's gonna happen is they're gonna be like, I don't know who I am, I have all these emotions that I've never dealt with, I don't know how to feel, I feel uncomfortable with all these emotions, and I now regret being at this point in my life and feeling just like disconnected from myself. Like, sure, I got stuff done. I'm successful. Maybe I built a business. Maybe I can say I've accomplished a lot, but I never just looked inside, looked at my inner child. What do I like? Let me just spend some time following what I like. Let me not worry so much about that extroverted world and what everyone else, says are the problems that need to be fixed, and, worrying about everyone else's opinion, giving themselves permission to just be themselves, be on their own, feel what they want to feel, and focus on what is important to them. Because feeling is not just emotion, it's also what is important to me. How do I prioritize things? So an ESTJ or ENTJ could be going through their whole life having their own inner priorities that they're not even fully letting themselves look at. They haven't taken the time to say, what's important to me? They're just focused outside. How do I get stuff done? What does everyone else say should be done? Let me do that. Let me focus on that. So ESTJs and ENTJs out there, start to look inward. Start to really embrace your emotions, embrace what is important to you. You don't want to have this regret one day. Now let's move to ENFJ, ESFJ. They're going to have some similar issues as the other EJs, except these two types are extroverted feelers. They're gonna have this issue with, I didn't really ever take the time to stop and figure out who I am, but it's in a much different way. These types are okay with feelings and emotions. That's the world they live in. They, on the other hand, have been ignoring the thinking. ESFJ and ENFJ have just totally pushed aside what is true to them. ESFJ and ENFJ spend all their time just trying to make sure everyone else is happy, taking care of everyone else's needs, because that's what they feel responsible for. Much like the ESTJ and ENTJ, they don't have permission to stop looking out at the extroverted world. That's what they feel like. It is wrong for them to stop and look inward. And while, yeah, the ESFJ, ENFJ might have done a lot of great things, made a lot of people happy, done a lot of great work, made their community a better place, everyone loves them and relies on them, they might get to a point in life where they're like, this whole time I've done a bunch of stuff I thought was stupid and like my life just doesn't work for me. This isn't what I wanted to do rationally. And that's like a really painful thing to suddenly realize I just ignored that inner voice which was telling me this is your truth, this is the path that you want to go down, in favor of this is what is going to make everyone else happy. So ESFJ, ENFJ, you gotta take a step back and realize instead of making people happy, sometimes I gotta make people mad. A lot of that is what it is. It's like these two types are like, I could do what I want to do. I could get what I want to get done, but it's gonna upset other people, therefore I can't do it, therefore I'll just push that off. And they're gonna regret it one day. They're gonna be like, I should have just done what I wanted to do, TO'd everyone around me, and like been true to myself. Why don't we stop momentarily and support this channel with a quick commercial break? Thanks for sitting through that. And if you're enjoying this video, hit the thumbs up button. Let's move over to the EPs. We can talk about the ESFP and ESTP, the extroverted sensors, and what they will regret. These types are great at just like being on the go, going with the flow. I didn't mean to rhyme, but I'll do it all the time. Anyway, these types really know how to enjoy life, how to like get the most out of their experiences. They're always looking for new experiences, new stuff to do. They get kind of bored easily. And that can lead them to go out, do a bunch of stuff, really make something of their lives. But there could come a day where they're like, oh, crap, I have no meaning in my life. I never stop to figure out, what does my life mean? What is the purpose? Where is it all going? The extroverted sensors get so caught up in the moment, like what is actually happening. They ignore where is it going? What's gonna happen like a year from now? If I keep on this path, where will I end up? And even if they go down a path through life without looking forward very much and end up in a good spot, they still could regret it and be like, I really don't know why I did any of this stuff. I don't know like why I ended up here, what it all means, and they're gonna have like this kind of existential crisis. And I think these sensing types are good at kind of avoiding the existential crisis for a long time. They're not really thinking about that more overarching meaning and more just focused on, let me do stuff now. That's what's important. But it all catches up with you one day. So the ESTP and ESFP can be fine ignoring the meaning, ignoring the more existential questions, and then one day it's just gonna hit them and they're gonna be like overwhelmed with this fear of, I've been going, and now it's like, why did I do any of it? I'm freaking out and I don't know what the future holds. I don't know what the next steps are. I don't know where it's all headed. And if you're old enough where it's like, you're on your deathbed, you don't necessarily have to worry about the future. You still are gonna look back and be like, I'm freaking out because it's like, I am 99 years old and I don't know why I was alive. Like, what was it all about? So these two types, they need to really take the time now to be like, okay, what is the meaning of what I am doing? Like in an abstract sense, how can I take everything that I'm doing and try to like pull it together, like come up with my life's purpose? And then how can I take that purpose that I have come up with, that I've synthesized from all the things I'm doing in my life, and project it forward into the future along a single path and be like, this is where I think I might be in a year, in 2 years, in 10 years. That's gonna freak those types out. It's better to do that now than to let it build up for the next 10, 20 years and then be like, oh my gosh, what's happening? Okay, now we're talking about the ENFP and ENTP, those extroverted intuitive types. Man, what a bucket of laughs they are. You might be tempted to think these types are so cool. How could they ever have this big freak out and have these regrets? Because they have that abstract way of looking at the world. They can be very innovative and think up all these new ideas and be very creative. But it can be very hard for these types to like stop and actually build something. The intuitive types in general prefer to just keep their head in the clouds and like kind of ignore what's going on in their day-to-day life. Like, I mean, in the real world kind of day-to-day life. So they'll just like let everything else around them kind of like slide a little bit. And these types are gonna be having a great time out there, being their creative selves, coming up with all these innovative ideas and stuff. People think, where are you coming up with all these intuitive connections? Like, it's so brilliant. And then things come crashing down because it's like they were not paying attention to just the everyday stuff, the everyday sensory stuff. They didn't get their ducks in a row, and maybe they didn't even get as far as they could have with their great ideas because they kept going from one idea to the next. These types find it hard to just stop and be like, okay, I found something interesting or something I find cool. Now let me stop and really work step by step towards making something out of it, bringing it into reality. And this is like a really bad regret to have one day. And these types are gonna have it unless they learn how to stop and just take one thing at a time in the real world, put one thing down in front of the other. They're gonna look back and they're gonna be like, I had all these great ideas and they never went anywhere. What these types really will do a lot of times is they're constantly in the process of like getting ready. Even though these types are spontaneous and don't like to like plan things out, they always will feel like they haven't explored enough stuff, enough information conceptually to be able to bring their ideas into the real world. So they'll be like, I've been thinking about this idea I've been mulling it over, I've come up with all these ways that it could be innovative, and I don't really know how to start making it a reality. And I don't really want to do it because then it's going to force me to look at, a business plan and have like step 1, step 2, step 3, and I don't want to have to deal with that. But you don't want to have that happen to you if you're one of these types, to be like looking back when you are an aged individual and be like, man, I had tons of great, crazy ideas, all this creativity, and I just was too afraid to stop myself and be like, okay, time to get started. What is step 1? What do we have to do here? On the other hand, I mean, these types could also just regret, I was so busy focusing on just taking in all this new information, all the new concepts that I thought were cool, like just spending all my time in intuitive land, that my house is, a total wreck, and now I'm gonna have to spend the next 5 years putting it together, getting things cleaned up. So these types need to stop what you're doing. Let's bring it to the real world for a second, one thing at a time. Get started. Why don't we stop once more and support this channel with a quick commercial break? Thanks for sitting through that. Next up, let's talk about some of these IP types, okay? Let's talk about the introverted thinkers, ISTP, INTP. Brilliant types, very smart people, sort of like the lead extroverted thinkers. These types can get a lot of stuff done. A big difference between these types, though, than the extroverted thinkers we talked about is that these types don't feel beholden at all to other people. They're like, I am gonna figure out how to get stuff to work. I am gonna figure out how to solve the problems. All of you around me, you just do something else. You bother me. Let me figure it out on my own. Assuming they are competent individuals, they can probably accomplish a lot on their own, doing their own thing. But that tendency to be like, guys, go away, I'm gonna do this on my own, that's gonna come back in a bad way later. INTPs and ISTPs are gonna find that everyone around them is like growing more and more upset with them. And INTPs, ISTPs will see this, they'll be like, okay, I'm kind of ticking off everyone else and I don't care. And they are wrong. And at some point, that might just burn like all the bridges to everyone around them. These types will have ignored the feeling, ignored, the little bit of effort they could put in to keep everyone around them somewhat happy, to the point where everyone hates them, which of course is a regrettable thing. And these types would be pretty good for a long time being an island, being, their own person off by themselves, not so concerned about that. But there will come a time where these types do regret it, where they're like, I never made emotional connections with people. Like, I'm on an island solving all my problems, doing my calculus over here, building a particle accelerator. And meanwhile, I am entirely lonely. No one wants to talk with me. And everyone thinks I'm a big old jerk. Because I kind of was a big old jerk. And as much as these types, and maybe just introverts in general, might be like, I don't need other people, I don't need the human connection, it will build up over time to the point where eventually you will regret not having the connection. Like, I'm fairly confident that no matter how antisocial you think you are, I guess with a few exceptions here and there, maybe, but by and large, everyone at some point, and these types included, are going to be like, I really am regretting that I didn't make more human connections. I've been doing this introverted thinking thing on my own for so long, I'm tired of it, and now I have no one around me. I wish I had just gone a little bit more with the emotions to connect with people, see how I could, help them out, make them happy. And, what did it matter that I accomplished these things? I built the particle accelerator or whatever, if people don't want to be around me, if I don't have human connection now. What you got to do if you're INTP or ISTP is make sure you're not shutting out other people for the sake of just doing your own thing, like that you are embracing others, that you are doing a little more of that extroverted feeling, which feels dumb to do, but it's necessary to maintain that connection. Okay, similarly, now that we move on to the INFP and ISFP, they're gonna have a problem with other people. These types are great at going off and doing their own thing in a feeling sense. These types are like, I know what is important to me, I have these strong feelings, strong emotions about these things. I can go off and I can, express myself, I can follow my heart, and I can do my own thing. I don't mind if I'm on my own, that's fine. And the introverted feelers really do accomplish a lot just riding high on the introverted feeling. Like, you see tons of artists are able to accomplish a lot by kind of just doing their own thing. But like with the INTP and ISTP, it can become a problem at a certain point because the INFP and ISFP has spent so long kind of ignoring advice a lot of times and kind of just going off on their own, maybe burning some bridges accidentally a lot of times. I think INFPs and ISFPs just accidentally burn bridges where it's like, oh, I didn't mean to cut this person out of my life. I just stopped talking to them and they stopped talking to me, and bye-bye, other person. And the emotional connection here is not the issue when it comes to these types. They can connect with people emotionally if they want to. ISFPs and INFPs will be trying to go about accomplishing something, and people around them will be like, you should do it this way, and that will probably be better. You'll get it done faster, you'll accomplish what you're trying to accomplish sooner. And they'll be like, oh, no. And over time, that causes a problem where everyone around them is like, dude, you're not listening to us. You don't really care what we're trying to tell you. You're doing your own thing. So we'll just let you do that. So these types will wake up one day and be like, man, I really regret that. I wish I had people around me who could now help me work towards what my vision is, what my heart is telling me to do. Now I'm stuck with just myself. It worked for a long time, but now I need other people around. I've burned the bridges so many times. I've refused what they were telling me so many times that they just don't want to be around me anymore. And related to that, it's I wanted to accomplish a lot and I didn't get as far as I could because I couldn't get these other people on my team, or maybe they were trying to tell me something and I didn't listen to them. I couldn't release part of my vision. I couldn't let go of what I was attached to and my priorities to consider that maybe they had a way of accomplishing things that was better. So what these types need to do so that they don't regret it one day and find themselves like on their own little island somewhere talking to a coconut is just to embrace when other people are trying to help you out. When they are telling you stuff and you're like, it's not in line with what's important to me, like, yeah, just listen to them. Be willing to go out and even just ask others, what do you think is gonna work here? How can we work together to accomplish something? What is the best way to just get something done? Let's stop again, see if YouTube would like to show a commercial. Thanks for sitting through that. So now let's talk about the weirdo IJs. So we'll talk about the introverted sensors, ISTJ, ISFJ. These types have got things under control, man. They got a checklist for everything. They're on top of it. They've got things line by line. They got a procedure. They know what they're doing. They got a routine. They've been doing the same thing every day for the last 10 years. And it's all locked down. they got it all straight. And you know, that's really important. Like that will get you a long way in life. They are not gonna be dealing with a bunch of BS all the time because they have a procedure for everything. Or will they? See, and this is the thing, is that these types got the sensory down, it's all organized, line by line. Meanwhile, like things are bubbling under the surface. Specifically the extroverted intuition, which is like, there's a few different things going on here. It's like looking out at all the possibilities of stuff that could happen. Extroverted intuition is good at just like picking up at like, this is what's happening now, so let me leap forward into the future, and here's like 10 different ways it could go. And the ISFJ and ISTJ are trying to avoid thinking about those intuitive leaps outward into the future, trying to avoid looking at what does everything mean. You know how when we talked about the extroverted sensors earlier, that was the big thing they would regret, is like, what did my life mean? What was the purpose? This is similar, except the ISTJs, I think, are avoiding thinking about the possibilities so much that they're gonna come to a place in their life where it's like, I had my life really organized and controlled, and I did the same thing for like 30 years, and I never stopped to be like, what are all the possibilities? Like, here's what's going on in my life now. What other path could I go down? What's something different that I could try? Maybe there's a whole new way of looking at my life that I didn't think of and I missed it. The ISTJ and ISFJ, I think, are gonna be the biggest ones who are like, I really regret just not like doing something different, like coming up with a new way of living my life, exploring some different possibilities, or even just like projecting out to think, what are the possibilities that I could go down? They missed where the future was going. They weren't looking ahead at that. So then they find themselves in a place later where they're like doing the same thing and it doesn't really make sense for the world around them anymore. So for these types, what you gotta do is break open that box a little bit and be like, okay, let me just brainstorm a bit. What are the possibilities that my life could go? Like, what are some things I could do that are maybe crazy, maybe sound like totally out there? Where could I take my life? You know, so that you don't miss out on those opportunities. And when life seems to have some kind of like chaotic element being thrown at you, you can be like, well, maybe this is an opportunity for me to kind of like shift things a bit, rather than keep things organized, keep things under control, and maybe life won't change around me. No, it's like, maybe I need to think forward and be like, why is this happening? Okay, where could it go from here? How can I adjust to, you know, live the best I can within these circumstances? How can I make sure I don't miss those opportunities that come my way? Okay, now the INFJ, INTJ, the introverted intuitive types, will have something that sounds a bit similar to the types we just talked about, ISTJ, ISFJ. All the IJs like to be kind of in a box and like not get out of it. They like to stay there, they like to keep things controlled, they like to try to avoid the outside world coming up with anything new to interfere with what they're doing. But INTJ and INFJ, being intuitive, like I said with the other intuitives, they got their head in the clouds. These types are projected so much into the future that they're like kind of living there. The present moment is like, hey dude, where are you? And they're like, not here. These types are trying to avoid the sensory world, the present moment. They're trying to get past it, and it can work for them. They like to plan. They can over-plan. It's like, I've accounted for everything. Let's put this master plan into action. I can see the pattern that's going on with the world, and so I know that this is what's going to happen, 17 steps down the road. So then the regret really for these types is that they didn't actually just live life now. They were thinking so much about the future, projecting so much, planning so much, trying to control things so much so that they could just avoid any inconvenience in the real world, that they missed out on living, really. These types are going to have the regret one day if they're not careful, if they don't get on top of it now. I don't know that I really fully lived my life. I was so disconnected from what was actually happening, and I was just trying to get around the real world so much. And when I say get around, I don't mean get around it in a car. I mean avoid it, to bypass the real world. That they missed out on what was actually happening. They missed out on especially the enjoyment of life. With these types, they have so much anxiety about things going awry in the concrete real world. These types could one day be man, I really regret that I didn't just kind of let loose, stop trying to be so controlling, stop trying to plan for everything, and just take life as it comes. I wish I could have been a little more spontaneous. I wish I had just had more experiences. I wish I had gone out and just seen more, experienced more things in the world. All the IJ types can really get into routine and doing the same thing over and over again. I don't really need to see new stuff. What does it matter? It's just it just causes me anxiety because I have to prepare for it. I have to know where am I going to park, So these types need to start doing that now. Stop trying to overplan all the time. Try to be a little bit more spontaneous. When you are doing whatever it is, try to be in the present moment and really enjoy life now. Thanks for watching. If you want to watch another video, click right here or watch the whole playlist right there. And until next time, stay cool and attractive.